Hey, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening. I want to say welcome to the Marital Toolbox, where every tool in the box is important. We just have to figure out how to use them, but every toolbox in the box is important. I am Pastor Octavia Lucas. Pastoring Global Evangelistic Ministries in Cleveland, Ohio. And this is my show. Used to be our show, my husband and I, Apostle Kevin, but now me, a little bit to myself. The Marital Toolbox, So welcome, come on in, tag somebody. You can submit your questions. Hey, listen, you can also call in. The number is 216-298-1554. That number again to call in is 216-298-1554. And also too, you are also awesomely welcome to post, because I can see the post. And so happen is maybe I can look over at the corner of my eye and I can see something that somebody posts, or you can ask a question on the post. If you if you go into the live stream of what's going on Facebook, what's going on YouTube. Well, I can't see YouTube, but you can still get in on that conversation though. You can still post. Kaz Radio, you can still see the www.kazradio.org. You can still see it, but here, if you do it on Facebook, you can post your comments or something, and maybe if I have enough time, I can answer, I can say something or comment. But once again, that number for a call in is 216-298-1554. And this is a half an hour show. This is the Tuesday that I do it. I do the Marital Toolbox every other Tuesday for a half an hour, starting at 5:30, and that will be 5:30 to 6 p.m., okay? So next Tuesday I'm not on, but the following Tuesday I will be on. Okay. So like I said, I only have 30 minutes. And what I do is, and what I have done before I got back into this, I put out there, people can submit topics of discussions, concerns, or questions, or anything like that. And a lot of times you won't see people submitting things on my Facebook page, but I tell you, my inbox and people messaging me, people that may have my phone number or something like that, they will message me and it will send me different topics and stuff like that. And what happens is I normally take the most the question that seems to concern, that seems to be the same question from a lot of people, the most frequent question that's being asked. I kind of just take those. I try to come up with my own subjects, I ask, pray, and ask God to give me subjects, but a lot of times it just be so much concerns and questions and stuff sent to me. I say, hey, well, let me just look at, what's here, and so I pick from those. And tonight, this evening, only got 30 minutes, and it looked like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 left, because I'm talking and introducing. 3 questions that I picked that I saw that was reoccurring and access, or that I saw that it don't even have to be necessary that it was a repetitive question. Sometimes it can just be a concern that people just really don't know. As I was just telling Pastor Larry here, I don't want to judge or assume, but sometimes people just really don't know, so we can't assume all the time. But anyway, we're going to get right into it. And so, like I said, I have 25 minutes left. I'm not going to spend too much time on one question. I'm pretty much going to hit it and quit it. This is not that time. If it was an hour show, then I can do more of a detailed. So I'm just going to skim like kind of the top of the surface. And what you do is, from me skimming the top of the surface, you just take the information home of what you agree with or what you understand to be, and you take that home and you research it yourself. And you go into your own deep study, and you go into your own deep, revelation of it, or however you want to get it. Okay. So like I said, I'm just going to hit and quit it here, and I'm going to move on, because I'm going to try to answer about 3 questions if I can. So, but it's just some hot topics, or tonight, and some concerns. So tonight is we're going to talk about the big SEX. 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 You have to get comfortable with saying that word. Sex, 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 sex. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Okay, so let's get in with the first question. Like I said, if you're just coming on or you're going to come on half an hour show, just trying to get myself in there. The first, this is a concern from someone. Help. My bedroom action needs help. I think I'm losing connection with my spouse. Well, let's start here. Help. My bedroom action needs help. I'm losing connection. You just have to, let's start here. Going back, revisiting what are some of the things that you do before the bedroom? Because that plays a whole lot before you get to the bedroom. The bedroom is kind of really, the intimacy in the bedroom is kind of, let's just say the bedroom action is kind of something just to act alone. The culmination of what you might have done prior to that, because intimacy does not start in the bedroom. That's something that you really need to understand. Intimacy begins before you get to the bedroom. Intimacy could be, intimacy is just what it is, into each other. So it could be, it could be that phone call. It can be that embrace. It can be that conversation. It can be that him or her coming home. Them seconds, those minutes, that conversation, that communication, asking how was each other's day. That's intimate moments that you're drawing into each other, showing that you care about each other's day. Showing that you're taking a personal interest into each other. And what spouse does not want to feel like, oh my God, you care and you're taking a personal interest? That, that produces something within each other's heart and in a spirit that begins to break down different things. Just different stuff like that before you get to that. Holding hands, some type of physical contact before the ultimate physical contact is worth trying. That hugging, that embrace, that rubbing that hand, that rubbing that back, maybe rubbing his head, maybe rubbing her or something, a massage or anything like that, some type of point of contact that is going to stimulate. You know what I'm saying? That, and I don't want to use the kind of word arousal, but let's use the word stimulate, you guys love or something like that before you get to the bed. And then if that's not the case, I don't know too much about what you're doing in your bedroom. Maybe you need to consider, talking with your spouse. You know what I'm saying? Talking with you. Now, when I talk about intimacy or sex or anything, I'm talking to husband and wife because that's my belief. I believe that sex was created for the confinements of a husband and wife that are married. I do not condone anything outside of that. So I am not pushing forward any type of plan that this question is being answered for someone that is not married or anything like that. So I just want to just put that out there, anything like that. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Think of something, if that's not the case of all what I have said earlier, sit down, and I think you need to have that talk, because it could be, are you just feeling like that, or if both of y'all feeling like that? Maybe you both need to sit down and have that talk and maybe talk about, okay, where you may be feeling disconnected. Maybe you guys lost sight of each other somewhere, because what you go through in life can affect your bedroom. It really can. Stress can affect your bedroom. Arguments can affect your bedroom. Lack of communication can affect your bedroom. So many different things can affect your bedroom that even if you was doing it right in the bedroom, if before you get to the bedroom or what you do before you get to the bedroom is not together, it doesn't matter if you're doing it right in the bedroom or not. That outside of the bedroom is going to come inside the bedroom. And no matter how right you're doing it, it's still going to feel wrong. You're still going to lose some type of, disconnect or something. So I would say talk to each other, talk to your spouse, and find out where maybe the disconnection might have come from. Learn each other's love language. Maybe you lost sight on each other's love language. Maybe your spouse or you may not be a person that just want to when you come to the bedroom, okay, let's just take off our clothes. Let's just hit it. Let's just quit it. communication. So I'm not going to dwell on that too much longer. Okay. So that's just a surface question. Like I said, these are surface questions because this is a half an hour show. I don't have time to really dive in, but just take those little pointers and work with that and do your own research study. But the most important, the disconnection, you have to do communication for that. Okay. All right. The next question is like, whoo, I'm like, okay. A question came in and they asked me, and we're still talking about sex. They asked me about a sexual position. And the position was, we're going to say, from behind. Is it wrong for a believer marital couples to have intimate moments from behind because they felt like that was they felt like that was like kind of part of going into bestiality or something. They was trying to equate that with that. I won't get into the whole details of what they was trying to do. Well, first of all, we have to, define what is bestiality. Okay, that's just get there first of all. Bestiality is no more, like I said, these are surface questions. Do your own research. Bestiality is, at the end of the day, is just point blank human beings having some intimacy with animals. Okay. That's what it is. Some type of contact with an animal. Okay, whether it's intercourse, whether the person is doing it with the animal or whether they're allowing the animal to do it to them. If a human is touching an animal in any type of appropriate way except for it being its pet, rubbing its head, you know how you pet the back and rub its head and and all of that stuff, that is considered bestiality. Touching an animal in any kind of way to stimulate the animal to release any type of secretion, or an animal helping you to release any type of secretion or anything like that. Those are forms of bestiality. Animal licking you, or you. I've heard of people mouths on animals. Go figure. I'm not even going to get into it because I can't fathom it. But nevertheless, that's what bestiality is. Specifically a human and an animal. Now, for your question on that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but to your own convictions and to your own likens, within the confinements of with your spouse, something like that. And when you say behind, you specified it. I can't get too deep because my grandbaby is here with me. So we're going to say vaginal. She don't know what vaginal, what she do, but vaginally, that's what you was asking about as far as entering in vaginally. There's nothing wrong with that. But once again, that's something that your conviction, with you and your wife or your husband, or your spouse or that, but I don't see anything wrong. But I just wanted just to differentiate between bestiality and what intimacy, what two humans do. You understand what I'm saying? So that's totally different. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a surface question, but to each his own. That's to with you have to find out what your convictions is, and if your wife feels uncomfortable with it, then maybe that's something that you should talk to her about and see why she feels uncomfortable with it. You know what I'm saying? It may not be you. If you're having concerns that maybe, it may not be, find out if she's, why she may be feeling uncomfortable with that position. It could be something medically. We don't know. I don't know all the details. I just know the question that you posed to me, but in a nutshell, is nothing wrong. I just want to differentiate between BCI. That's not bestiality in no kind of way. And I can see how you're trying to relate it because it has the stance. It has the stance, and it may have the posture of how animals have intimate moments. But okay, let's think. How else is an animal going to have an intimate moment? How else are they built to have other ways of intimate moments? You see what I'm saying? How else were they built? They can't have intimate moments like two humans can. They're not going to lay on their back, and I just want to just really just tell it like it is. They're not going to lay on their back, and don't no animal hop on them or anything like that. So that's their way that God had seen fit for those two to be, intimate. So for you to look at that and compare that to that, I think that's kind of off-centered when you look up the definition of what bestiality is and different things like that. We know that it is with an animal, okay? So, but anyway, like I say, these are surface answers. Dive into it yourself. But once again, communication, like it was for the first question, communication is always the key. Find out what's comfortable for each of you. You have to find out what's comfortable and what makes you feel comfortable. And that's the only thing I can tell you on that. But my stance is, no, I don't see anything wrong with it, okay? So no. Okay. The last question. Someone asked, they went to Hebrews 13:4. And it says in Hebrews 13:4, marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure for God, and kept pure. For God, Paul says, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexual I'm reading the NIV version, and all the sexual immoral. Let me read that again, NIV, Hebrews 13:4. Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, which in King James it would say undefiled, okay? Pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexual immoral. Someone says, kind of, what does that mean, and what was he saying? Well, when we look at the word defile, we know just in a nutshell, like I said, these are surface. Defile means unclean. It just means unclean. We know God was always talking to the children of Israel about that. He always used this word defilement, to specify to them the things that he was like particularly saying what was generally, unclean, because the children of Israel, because Israel was in the company and always was in the center of wherever they went, was always around different paganism practices, cults, and different cultures that practice different things that were unholy, that when God was calling them to be holy. Okay, so this word defile was always before them, so it means to make unclean. And another thing that we have to also define also too in here before I really get into it, when Paul was talking about the sexual immoral, well, when you really look it up and study, he was saying fornication. Okay. Because at that time also too, at this time, fornication was on the rise. And once again, in this state of where they was at and what Paul was dealing with culturally, it still was a lot of paganism still going on. As Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun, it still was happening, and it was still going on. So Paul, he was dealing with them as a believer and helping them to stay on track in the midst of what was going on in that type of paganism practices and that type of culture and different things like that. And of course, we know what adultery means. It means having sexual relations outside of marriage. Okay, so one thing we need to know and we understand when we talk about sex, sex wasn't just created for procreation or to just have children, but it was also for a man and a woman, is between a man and a woman to enjoy. Okay, obviously it was some type of fulfillment and some type of enjoyment that is had when you have it. That's why I say it's just not for procreation, because while you're procreating, things are happening, things are stimulating, there's joys, there's highs, there's a lot of things that's going on, that's happening. So also in that also brings pleasure. So it brings pleasure. And so, I'm sure when Adam knew Eve, I'm sure it was some pleasurable things. I'm sure he felt very pleasured by that, not just the later, okay, we need to have children or whatever. And so we know that some pleasure took place between the two, intimacy. And then we also understand when we talk about sex, before I get into that question, intimacy grows a bond or is how a husband and wife grows closer, kind of closer together. So when it say marriage should be honored by all, in the bed undefiled, basically he's talking about, in a nutshell, not allowing things outside the confinements of what God calls pure in marriage to enter into your marriage. Now, these two things Paul mentioned, besides the Bible talks about other things that are immoral. He talks about fornication coming in, and he talks about, adultery. And when it says that the bed, meaning undefiled, it is something that a husband and wife come together and they give consent to, but not consent to things that's going to go up against the grain of what God deems unfit or not pure, such as adultery, such as what we call today 2 sons, 3 sons, 5 sons, swinging, and all those different things. The Bible, just stay clear of what the Bible talks about. The Bible, homosexuality. It's a topic that people really don't care to really talk about and really don't address. But we have to, and I address it as a believer. Now, other people have their own beliefs and their own stance about it, how they embrace that and how they accept that and receive that. But as a believer, I don't embrace it as a point to where I'm judging and condemning, but I have to stay, within the confinements of what I believe and what God has spoken against, as far as homosexuality. And I'll let God was against that, and it is wrong, because sex is in the confinements of a husband and, a man and a woman. And what happens is, with a man and a woman, when you have that intimacy, a man and a woman shows forth the nature of God. That's in Genesis 1:26, when he said, let us make man in the likeness and after the image of them. So that it shows the nature of God. And so a man and a woman provides the biological aspects to fulfill the plans of God. That's Genesis 1:28, when he tells them, okay, be fruitful and multiply. Only a man and a woman can fulfill this biological aspect, or this fulfillment of God that he sees to fulfill the earth. And then the last thing is a marriage between a man and a woman. It reflects the union of Christ and the church, which Ephesians 5 talks about. So a man and a man cannot do all of these things, and neither can a woman and a woman do all these things. And so these are some of the things that Paul also talked about that can bring defilement to the bed, adultery to the bed, any type of paganism act to the bed, because once again, Paul here is still dealing with what's going on around them. And, and of course, the people that Paul is dealing with, a lot of times it was so easy, which were Jewish, basically newly converted Jewish Christians, which was so easily to go back to where they came from. You know what I'm saying? Their weakness was the things that Paul brought them out of, through salvation, and they were very easy to go back into. So he was just trying to help them to maintain. But as far as with that, just simply in a nutshell, marriage is very honorable to God. Is very honorable to God. And so when it talks about the bed being undefiled, it's just those things that will be brought into the bedroom, in just a simple nutshell, that is going to go against all the things that God, came against, and what Paul discussed and what he talked about. And it's so funny. And he said in the King James Version, he said, and when God comes, he'll judge the fornicator and the adulterer. You understand what I'm saying? He didn't say anything else or anything like that. So we know that these things are hard, are hardcore issues that God has, especially when it comes to marital relations, especially that adultery, and especially that fornication, which was so prone to be happening, in Jesus's time too. He even spoke about it. Jesus even took it to the point of, if a man look at a woman the wrong way, you know what I'm saying? He said, and that man, he done already committed the act. Forget about the bed action. He done already drawn himself and already had an intimate moment, even in his mind, even the fantasy, of it. And so we look at that And so that's what that kind of means in a nutshell. But like I say, that's just a surface answer. But I tell you, if you go home and just take a little bit of what I said and you go home and you study it yourself, but it really is just what you and your wife deem fit in your bedroom, long as I said, long as it does not go up against the grain of the word of God and what it says. And it does not mean, I've heard people say, that means that it's just a free for all in the bed. No, it's not a free for all in the bed. It has to be something consented, a consent between you and your wife. Make her feel comfortable, make him feel comfortable. It's not nothing that you coerce each other to do because you have this type of fantasy, pornography, all type of that stuff. Those are the things that are against what will cause the bedroom to be impure, because a lot of that stuff we have to be careful. God was getting away from us to be a lot of that stuff is self-gratification. And if sex was created for the confinements of a husband and wife in marriage, self-gratification cannot fulfill that. Now, can it? Because that means you can satisfy yourself without your husband or your wife there. And that's not what sex is for. That's the abuse of sex. You're abusing it. You know what I'm saying? You're taking matters in your own hand, and that's not what that's for. It was created for a man and a woman in a marital state, in the confinement of marriage, to be had. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit of it. It may not help all of it for you. I would say take it home and study, but that's just a surface of it, of just answering those. So we answered the questions about bestiality, and we answered the questions about help my bedroom need action, and we answered kind of the questions about Hebrews 13:4. So I hope I helped out just a little bit of it. But like I said, it's just a half an hour show. I cannot really get into all full details of it, but you take what I said, and like I said, you go home and you take time and you study for yourself, okay? Study for yourself and get to know what's permissible in your own, and seek the Lord. He'll tell you, what's permissible and what's not, in your bedroom, okay? All right. So I just want to say thank you for being with me in the Marital Toolbox and coming on with me. I definitely appreciate you watching and tuning in. And just hearing the discussion and hearing the topics of discussion. You can always send, like I said, people inbox me questions or concerns, or if you think there's a nice, wholesome topic to talk about, that you want to talk about, we can talk about it. No question is off the table. As before, I don't know if you used to watch it with my girls. We talked about everything. Nothing was off the topic. And you're going to see them after a while. Once we get into the hour mark, you're going to see them. They'll be back. Right now, everybody's just kind of dealing with some things and handling some things. And so, so we're going to get back to that. But anyway, thank you for being with me in the Marital Toolbox, and I hope something I said will bless you and help you, and I pray all is well with your relationships and whatever you guys put forward to do in the confinements of marriage. God bless you. Love you. Thank you.